they would say, well, we need to think about it. And you know, as a business person, that's code for no. Don't just look at the price. You got to look at the back end. You may not be self-insured by the time the term ends. You don't want to have this huge price tag when you need it most.
There are so many people out there, business owners, that have financial struggles. All right. So today we have Jerry. So Jerry, I actually met through our local church down here in Aubrey, Texas. I think it's Aubrey, North Rock Church that we both go to. Jerry actually hosts a small group in our local church and helps people with their finances. He's also a financial coach. He's been in the industry for 20 plus years. And what I really liked, well, thank you, Jerry, for jumping on. We definitely appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. What gravitated to me when I first met you, Jerry, was like, you're like a people's person. You're very easy to talk to. You're very easy to get along with. And yeah, just like, I mean, you were very like welcoming. I wanted to have you like on the podcast. You and I know I've seen you at the gym multiple times talking about financial stuff, and I could talk about this stuff for days. So I'm actually really interested in kind of hearing really like the kind of financial like coaching that you do. And like, I'm curious to hopefully maybe help also the viewers like of like some of the like biggest pain points. So maybe if you could just kind of get everybody up to speed in like, you know, maybe 30 seconds or so, kind of give a little bit of maybe your background, something, anything that I left off to kind of where you're at and like the knowledge that you have as well.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a good compliment saying that I'm a good people person, because if I would have to give myself a label, I would call myself an introvert. But since I've been in the financial services business, I've had to learn to come out of myself, so to speak. So I used to do these exercises. I would force myself to talk to X number of people every single day. So I kind of developed myself into more of an ambivert. You know, I can be a little extroverted, but I'm also, you know, I don't mind spending time by myself and alone. But my story, I started back when I was in the military. I got married when I was 19 years old, and I was kind of moved up through the ranks pretty quickly. I was a young supervisor, and I was having financial issues. 3 of the subordinates that I was supervising, they also had financial issues. So my first sergeant called me into his office one day. He said, hey, you've got a promising career, but if you don't get your finances together, it's going to be a short career. I was like, okay, you know, so that forced me into learning about finance, because I needed to help my subordinates, you know, also. I was able to, you know, gather bits and pieces of information. There was no internet back then. We're talking about in the 80s, you know, mid to late 80s. So there's no internet back there. So it's going to the library. Just, you know, self-education. The years went by, and I was introduced to the financial services industry by a friend of mine. I actually coached this guy when I was doing sports training. He's from South Africa, and he came to the States to play soccer. So once he finished his college and his soccer career, he opened up an insurance company. So he ended up recruiting me to his company. I liked it, and because he said the same thing. He said, man, you would do good in this industry because you can talk to anybody. He said, you're a people person. So got into the industry 2014. He trained me. We did benefits, counseling and things like that with businesses. I didn't really like that. So I joined another company, and I got my investments license, my insurance license. So I started working with families. So in working with families, I noticed that I would have conversations with very intelligent people. They said they understand everything we talked about. You know, they understood the products, understood how they could help them. But in the end, they wouldn't do anything. They would say, well, you know, we need to think about it. My wife and I need to talk about it. Or I'll get back with you. And you know, as a business person, that's code for no. So I started researching. I also have a counseling background. So I put my counseling hat back on. So I started, you know, researching into, you know, behavior modification. And I was like, man, I found a little research on it, and it's called economic behavior. So I started studying that, and then started taking more graduate courses to help me help my clients. You know, moving forward, I found a couple different programs that were geared towards They call it financial therapy. But here in Texas, unless you have unless you're a licensed counselor, you can't use the phrase therapy. So that's why I call myself a financial coach. I started focusing on the mental aspect of finance. That's kind of a synopsis, but I can give you my framework on my coaching framework. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
that's that. So Jerry, are you doing like, is your like, what's your sweet spot? Is it like individuals, or you said like families, like, or is it
yes,
businesses?
very good question, because I see that kind of morphing into the business side, because my initial clients right now, the majority of them are business owners, as
Interesting.
opposed to just husband and wife teams. They work a regular job and whatnot. But my main focus, my starting point has always been with families, focusing
Yeah.
on families, couples age 29 to about 40 years old with children, because those individuals have more of an incentive to get the financial things right. Single folks, they think they're going to live forever. They don't think they're going to get sick. Oh, I can handle that, or I can do that later. So I'm
Mhm.
focusing on a market that they understand we need to do this sooner than later. Okay. So the reason I said I'm looking at the business side, because those individuals also have an added incentive to get things done right away. They may have employees. The lady I talked to this Saturday, her husband has employees. In most small businesses, we're talking about businesses that have 100 employees or less. Most of them don't have any type of retirement plan set up for themselves, nor their business. And
Mhm.
having a retirement plan it's one of the draws for getting good people and maintaining good people. Okay.
Mhm.
So good question. Right now, I'm focusing on families, but I see where I may end up having a sub niche with businesses. Because one
Yeah.
of the other things that I'm doing is we have financial wellness workshops that we can do for businesses. So we can
Mhm.
go into a business and we teach basic personal financial concepts. Nothing complicated. The workshops are generally 30 to 45 minutes. We'll teach for about 30 minutes. We'll have Q&A for 15 to 30 minutes. And from that,
That's cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah. So
really
I'm
cool.
going to offer it to our church. I just talked to my wife about that today.
Mhm.
I'm going to approach Pastor G and see if he would allow me to do one of the financial wellness workshops to the staff, at the church. So,
Yeah, that would be awesome. Jerry, quick question for you. So let's say, because we have a lot of business owners that watch this channel. So I guess use me for, well, I guess we don't have kids, so only four-legged ones, little animals. But let's say the ideal business owner, right, maybe struggling, maybe not, like with their finances, who knows, right?
mhm.
They come to you and they're like, all right, so here's my business, here's my finances. Like, what does that framework look like? What does the process look like? Like, how do you take the business owner, look at their finances? Like, what does that process look like? How do you dissect or diagnose where the holes are, or like what needs to be? Like, is it obviously retirement funds is a must, right?
Mhm.
401ks, IRAs, but like, what other things do you look at to like see the health of their finances? Like, I guess
Okay.
what, maybe walk me through that process.
Awesome. It's a simple framework. In financial services, you'll hear the phrase financial house. Okay. Build a financial house. Whenever you build any type structure, the first part of the structure that's laid is the foundation. Okay. In your financial house, normally the foundation is life insurance, because life insurance is it protects the family in case the breadwinner dies prematurely. Okay. Because
Mhm.
that person can, that is income replacement. That person can set it up to where his family can get his income for 10, 15, or 20 years. There's a formula that we use to figure that out. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but since I got into the coaching side, half of the financial house's foundation is dealing with your mindset around money, your thinking about money. Okay. And the way that I do that, we give several assessments. One of the assessments is a financial wellness assessment. How are you doing right now? It asks you a series of questions, and it gives us a digital printout. And the other is money category or money scripts assessment. It's a 33 question assessment. It gives us a printout. It gives you a primary money category. Okay, and when I say money category, you got money avoidance, you got money status, you got money worship, and then you got money vigilance. Okay. And all four of those have an emotional component that's going to affect your finances. Now, if a business owner is having issues with their business finances, they're probably having issues in their personal finances. Okay. So, first step, we do the assessment. I look for potential roadblocks for financial success. If the assessment comes back and it shows that this person may need to speak with a licensed counselor, let's say a gambling addiction or something like that, then of course I would refer. But the first step, find out their thinking patterns. Okay. Once we find out what their thinking pattern is, then I can prescribe a behavioral modification plan. Okay. Just cutting this real short. So the next step would be to evaluate their life insurance. How much life insurance do you have? And we've got to, and part of giving them a diagnosis in the assessment, it's going to give me a good idea why they don't have any life insurance if they do, or why they're underinsured. Okay. Because you got some cultures, they don't believe in life insurance. You got some cultures like the African American community, they burial insurance is it. They just think I just need enough insurance to bury me. That's it. They don't think any further yet.
That's interesting.
So that's the first part.
Yeah. So the life insurance, because I'm reflecting on my life insurance, and it's not much, by the way. And so I'm like, I think Dave, because I used to follow Dave Ramsey a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he says to normally have like 8 to 10 times your income.
That's the industry average.
Is that what you would recommend, of like, having whatever your take home pay is, to just multiply it by 8 or 10 or 15, or like what do you think? Like, for me, what would you recommend, I guess, for someone like me?
We use a dime. We use a formula called dime. Okay. Mm-hmm. The D stands for non-mortgage debt. So we would, if I had a board, I'd put the D, I'd draw a line beside all the letters. Non-mortgage debt, funeral costs, death cost. Okay. Mm-hmm. The next line is income. Okay. So we would take your yearly income. So we would say, if you make $100,000 a year, I would ask you, so I'm going to give you children. Okay. I'm going to say, how long do you want Larissa and the kids to receive your income? And if you say, well, 5 years, this is after you pass away. So 5 years. So what we would do, would multiply that 100, your income, times 5. So on that line, that's how much we would put. That would be $500,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next line is mortgage, because one of the things that your life insurance is supposed to do, is supposed to get rid of your debt, which includes your mortgage. So put your mortgage balance on that line. The E is for education costs. If you're the type parent who wants to help your kids go to college without incurring student loan debt, so what we would do is, whatever area you're in, like, Texas, I would look at the average for a 4-year public education. And let's say I gave you 2 children. So let's say it's $150,000 per child to get a 4-year degree. So that's $300,000 that would go there on that education line. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then we would add everything up. And so that would be how much life insurance you would need. And we would do the same thing for your spouse. And one of the drawbacks we get in the industry, if a husband's wife is a stay-at-home mom, or she works part-time, they don't want to put any life insurance on her. Oh, she doesn't work. She doesn't. If
she's
does. Raising kids,
that's work.
She's working. So life insurance, because you think about this. This is one of the questions I asked all spouses, all female partners. God forbid if your husband did not make it home from work tonight and you guys had no life insurance, or let's say you only have 50,000 in life insurance, how will your life change? And every single female I've asked that question, the eyes tear up because they think about it. They're not working, or they're working part-time. So they're going to have to go out and get I don't know how you can work two full-time jobs, but they're like, I'm going to have to get a full-time job. I'm going to have to pay someone to pick the kids up from school. I'm going to have to pay someone to take the kids to their sporting events because I'm going to be working all the time to replace his income. And it could be vice versa also. I know a lot of ladies, they're the breadwinners in the home, so, and I'll ask the guy point blank, is that the type legacy you want to live? And it's not a sales tactic. It's just it's real life. We are going to die. And I did this one time. The guy was a real butt. He was a real butt. I said, so I closed my books. I said, this is what I want you to do for me. I said, the day before you know you're going to die, call me up and we'll write insurance on you. And that was it. And I told him, apologized to his wife, not for what I said, for her being married to a knucklehead.
Yeah.
And that was it. I walked outside of the house. So simple. We would do a dime. And if I'm just talking to someone and they're leery about giving me so much personal information for the dime, I'll say, just do this. Multiply your annual income times 8 or times 10. And that's how much. That's a good starting point. But if you want to know exactly how much, you do the dime.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I was thinking about, so we have no debt. You could say 100K. We'll just use that as an example. But when you ask that question in my mind, I'm like, okay, how long do I want Larissa to live? Like, to where she doesn't have to worry about money? I was like, honestly, in my brain, I'm like 30 years.
Right.
I'm like, I want her to live for 30 years. So, and I just did the math on the calculator.
Right.
So is that like uncommon to have like a $3 million life insurance policy, or is that?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. So the average in my experience, it's been about 15, because sometimes the lady will, the spouse will answer, oh, no, because you look at it also, individual situations. You look at how old their youngest child is. If the youngest child is 15 years old, so I would say about 7 years that child is going to be out and should be on their own by age 22. Okay.
Yeah.
So I already told my daughter, there's no boomeranging back into the house. So
Yeah.
but you look at that situation, then she may not need his income for 15, 20, 30 years. You see, so I would take each situation, because people think differently. They may have been married 15, 20 years and they're still disagreeing on some things. So I would take each case by case and deal with it from there. Another question people ask a lot is how long, like Dave Ramsey. I'm a certified Dave Ramsey financial coach, so I'm not going to tell you anything that Dave wouldn't tell you. They talk about how long of a term should I get. So you can get anywhere from a 10-year to 35-year term, maybe a 5, but from 10 to 35-year term. So going back to that example, I always look at the youngest child, how old the youngest child, and for me, that is a good indication of, or a good idea about how long of a term we should write for that particular family. Another variable is if the couple has gotten a late start investing. The debt load is still pretty high, and they really have not. Let's say they're late 30s, early 40s. Okay, they're right there on the line of being at a critical point. Hey, we need to get this thing going. We don't have another 4 or 5 years, maybe another year, maybe 2, especially if they bring in a decent combined family income. Then they can accelerate some things. So I look at all of those different variables, and then we decide how long the term. I also look at price too. look at what they can afford. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. So I always ask, hey, give me a number that you could comfortably afford to put towards your financial plan. When I say comfortable, I mean, if you have an emergency, you're not going to call me and tell me, hey, Jerry, I need to stop my life insurance payments. No, that's the last thing that you want to do is stop your life insurance payment. So yeah, look at a lot of different variables that go into it.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good information. I need to go back and look at our life insurance policy and definitely make sure that it's good and set up. So I appreciate that. And
Do you
I'm
have
sure
term?
I think so, but yeah, it's only, I think, yeah, it's not much. It's not much. It actually, when I was getting out of the army, I had set it up. I think
Okay.
it's the VGLI
Yeah.
insurance. And so right when I was getting out, I had set it up, but it wasn't a significant number. And then once I heard Dave Ramsey, he's like, yeah, you need to do like 8 to 10 times your income. And I'm like, oh snap. I'm like, I'm not even doing that. So, and then what's crazy is like every year for like, I think only 1 month I can go in and increase it, but it's always like around Christmas time when I'm like semi
Okay.
kind of like not thinking about that stuff. So I always forget to do it. And like, but you can only go up like 1/8 of what the policy is. So like by the time I even get it up to where it's supposed to be, it's going to take like 10 or 15 years. So I probably just need to like start a whole new other policy or something to,
Yeah. How
and
long
just
you
have
had it?
two, I guess. I got out in 2018. So maybe
Okay.
yeah,
I'm in
6 years,
seventh year.
going on
Okay.
7. Yeah, something
Okay.
like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, it can get a bit expensive. I think I'd have to look back at it 'cause I know they had one plan about every 5 years, your monthly premium would almost double. Okay, so yeah, I'm not a proponent of the VGLI because it can be quite expensive.
if so, for anybody that's watching this and myself, because I sounds like I need to get another policy too. How do you go about that? Do you just go to like a broker and then they just kind of shop life insurance policies around, or is
You
there
can
like how does that
you
work?
you can do that with the company that I'm working with. We own two term companies. Is in New York. That's a totally different jurisdiction. Yeah, so I can give you a quote. You can compare that to others. I know Ramsey likes to use Zander, Zander. This is the thing about Zander. Many years ago, actually about 11 years ago, I went through Zander to get a term policy. They sent me a index universal life policy as opposed to a term policy. And I was just like, I didn't understand that, but I found out that they will shop around. If you want other than term, they will shop around and look for other policies. But to answer your question, yeah, there are a lot of online resources that you can use. Remember this, you got to know what you're doing because a lot of companies they will sell a term policy. They may sell you a stripped down 10-year term policy and it's
Mhm.
very, very inexpensive. But at the end of the 10 years, you have to convert it. If you want to keep insurance, you have to convert it to a cash value life insurance. You see,
Mm.
most people don't realize that they look at that cheap price. Oh, I just got a, 500,000 for like, 15, $16 a month. But at the end of that 10-year period, now you're 10 years older, and now you've got to go into a type of insurance that's 4 to 6 times more expensive than term.
Mhm.
So you're going to get bitten
Yeah.
doing that. So that's one of the reasons I don't unless you can talk to an agent
Mhm.
and have them educate you. Don't just look at the price. You got to look at the back end of that thing because you may not be self-insured by the time the term ends. The term that you may not be self-insured by that time, so you may still need some insurance. You don't want to have this huge price tag when you need it most.
Yeah.
So
So what question should I be asking, or should somebody be asking of like, hey, on the back end, we do not want this to go to a cash value, right? Like what is
no, don't
that?
say yeah. Don't phrase it that way.
Mm,
Just ask them. I want to be careful here. Just ask them. So at the end of my term, what are my options? Because they have to tell you your options because your options are in the insurance policy. But most people most people don't read their insurance policy when they get it.
Right.
They just look at, okay, I have 500,000, and then they'll put it in the file drawer. Okay. That's what happened to me. I hate to tell this story, but that's what happened to me with Zen. I knew it was I signed online for the insurance. And when I got it through the mail, I mean, I was really busy at the time. I got it through the mail and I put it in my file drawer. And so when I joined the company that I'm with now, guy that trained me came over to the house, talked to my wife, just kind of gave me an overview. I mean, I was already familiar with the company, but a lot had changed since I was initially introduced to the company. And so at the end of the conversation, he asked me, he said, so what type of insurance coverage do you guys? I said, chest stuck out. So, I've got term, I've got term. And he said, you have your policy close by? And I said, yeah. So I walked proudly over to my file cabinet, pulled my policy out of the cabinet, put it down on the table, and just kind of sat there and looked at him. And he looked at me. He said, you sure you have term? I said, oh, yeah. He slid the policy over to me and he pointed down. It had Indexed Universal Life, which is a form of cash value insurance. Okay. So yeah, it was shocking. It was embarrassing. And every big meeting that we would have, and he spoke at that meeting, he would tell that story.
Yeah.
So just rubbing it in,
So basically what if I'm understanding this correctly, so basically at the end of the term, you basically just want to be able to continue or renew it as a term policy and not a cash value.
Right.
Based on the options you have with that policy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. That's really, really good information. Hopefully everybody's taking notes here.
Term is looked down on in the industry. Number one, you have two groups of people that sell term. Sell cash value. I'm sorry. First group, they don't really understand how cash value works. The second group is they understand how it works, but they just sell it because the commissions are so much higher than in term.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a horrible product. It has two good uses. One is called final expense. That's individuals 50 to about 85 that have had serious medical issues, and no other insurance company will give them insurance. Okay. You can only get about $30,000 worth of death benefit in final expense. But just think about it. You're 50 to 86. You're gonna have, let's say you get the max. You've got 30,000. And if you're in your 70s or 80s, I mean, you're paying several $100s a month for that, for something that's barely going to bury you. And then there's for high net worth individuals who, they're relatively young. That could be, 40s, 50s. They're in good health. They're probably going to live another 25, 30 years. So there are specially constructed whole life policies for net worth individuals. So when they pass away, their family gets the proceeds tax-free to pay for their estate taxes.
Got it. Okay.
That way they don't have to go into liquidating other investments to pay the taxes. It's going to be expensive, but you're talking about high net worth individuals. Usually that estate tax hits about, at about $2 million. It depends on what state you're in. Yeah. So those are the only two times that I would recommend cash value life.
Yeah. Man, that's such good information. So, okay. So to switch gears here a little bit, Jerry. So obviously you deal a lot with coaching with people with finances and things like that. And it sounds like the sweet spot is like the business owners, right? What do you see out of all of your experience of years of helping people with their finances? What do you see as maybe that one or two biggest recurring problem that you constantly see that it's like, okay, I've seen this before. I've dealt with this 100 times. How do people overcome that? What is the problem that you normally see that you can hopefully help people with? And how do you help them overcome that?
I would say inconsistency.
Behavior wise.
And this is what people do. Most people know what they need to do with the personal finances. If you're working, they know they want to retire one day. So they know they need money to retire on. They know they're going to die one day. They know they need money to bury them. Okay. They know if their debt load gets too high, it's going to cause problems in their family. But they don't know why they start and stop and start and stop. So it goes back to programming, mindset. And that goes all the way back to your childhood. It goes all the way back to your childhood because you look at, there's this saying that I did a video on my YouTube business page. People ask all the time, why do the rich get richer? Why do the rich keep getting richer? And I kind of flipped that. I'm not going to go into how I flipped it, but this is the issue. Once a person develops the right mental attitude with money and they get the right framework to invest for the future, invest to live right now, because you can kind of have it all. It's called lifestyle financial planning, and it's going to that paradigm shift of, okay, I'm not going to hoard until I reach 65 and then I'll start living. No. If you start planning right now, you get your mindset right, you get some basic financial education, a basic financial education framework, and you get with a coach, you get with a financial planner or a financial advisor, someone who's going to teach you to be consistent. Now, that was the nutshell. Now go back. So for instance, let's say I find a person who have a client who has a money status category. Money status. They took the assessment. It came back money status. What money status says, your net worth equals your self-worth. Okay. And we can go back into their past and kind of figure out why that is. Why do you feel that you need to work around the clock? You have a wife and kids, but yet you barely see them. Okay. Why do you feel you need to drive a luxury name car? Why do you feel you need to buy only designer clothes? Mm-hmm. Because that person's net worth equals their self-worth. So if I don't have a certain net worth, then I don't feel like I'm worth anything. Okay. Yeah. And this goes back to, this is kind of on the counseling side.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I'm like, this is where the counseling side of you is like legit and kicks in, because it's like, you're right. This stems way deeper. It's a mindset thing.
Yes. And we go just for instance, I'm going to give you there's seven primal questions. Each one of us, we're dealing with one of those questions. One of them is the strongest. So I'm going to give you mine. Mine is, it's between 1 and 2. Am I safe? And am I secure? And people say, well, isn't that the same? No, the safety is, give you a little background. So I grew up in the Vietnam era war. Okay. Every time we turned on the television, there was just war, talking about the war, Vietnam War, energy crisis during Jimmy Carter's era. I remember we had Tuesday, Thursday, you could go and get fuel for your vehicle. Lines were just wrapped around blocks, so, and I lived in an area where, it wasn't all that safe. So I always had to be super vigilant. And I grew up a good portion of my life in foster care. So I worked all the time because I didn't want to be poor. And a lot of individuals that develop money status, they grew up like that. And not wanting to be poor, it's a good catalyst to help you be successful financially. But it has to be balanced. You've got to accept you first, because money is only going to enhance who you are. It's only going to, if you're generous and you come into a lot of money, you're going to be more generous. Okay. If you're greedy and you come into more money, you're just going to hoard more for yourself, or you're just going to do more and more for you. Okay. So until we get down to the core, and part of my logo is a tree for my business, is a tree with the roots exposed. And we have all of these at the top part of the tree. You have branches, and then you have leaves. And the leaves have financial symptoms: high debt, low income, overspending. Okay. And so this is what the market does. Even if you go to a counselor, the counselor is going to deal with the symptoms. And as long as you keep dealing with the symptoms, you're not going to solve the problem, because you got to go down to the root. What caused these symptoms? That's what we have to get to. And most people in the financial services industry, most agents and most companies, they don't want to do what we call the internal work. They don't want to dig and find out, okay, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. Tell me what your parents taught you about money. What kind of patterns did you notice when you were growing up? Not just in your immediate family, but in your surrounding, your neighborhood. Because a lot of times you'll see those exact same patterns that you see in your house played out in your immediate community. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got to, once we figure out this is the cause of that problem, and depending on what the problem is, and most of them have similar solutions. I've got to get that person to reframe what they're telling themselves. I've got to wear this designer shirt because I'm not very attractive. And if I wear just a plain shirt, that's just going to make me more unattractive. I had a military buddy of mine tell me that. We were having a squadron event, and we were going to be out on the beach playing. I mean, he came to my room to pick me up. I mean, he had on this elaborate outfit. You know, it was shorts because it's during the summer. And I said, dude, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting ready to go to the squadron. I said, man, we're going to be out sweating in the sand. And I said, you're going to go and change? He said, no, this is what I'm wearing. And he stopped and he said, you don't understand. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you can wear just about anything and look fine in it. He said, but I've been told all of my life that I'm unattractive. I'm too dark, I'm too tall, I'm too skinny, or whatever. So he said, that's why I'm always dressed up. Every time I see him, I've never seen him casual. I never saw him casual. Yeah. He was always dressed up. And, so in things like that, once you find out information like that, now you can start building, helping that person say, hey, let's look at some of your good qualities. Let's look at some times when you did the right thing with your finances, because most people are not bad with their finances 24/7. They're not bad with the finances 24/7. So I would help them find out, let's look at some positive things that you've done. Okay. Once we dig back into their past, look at some patterns, find their money status. Let's look at some positive things that you've done. And doing that helps them realize, hey, yeah, I do the right thing at times with my finances. So I can do that. Okay, I can do it. So accountability is the other thing. A lot of people I call it do-it-yourself financial planning. Do-it-yourself financial planning, especially if things are not going well with their finances. They're embarrassed. Okay, there's shame. There's embarrassment. They don't want other people to know what's going on with their finances. So they'll go online. They'll go here. They'll go there. They'll ask a relative who appears to be kind of successful.
Yeah.
What do you think I should do in this? And that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. You need to have someone with some knowledge that can help you put a plan in writing. They can help you put a plan in writing. I call it a financial guidance system.
Yeah.
Just like your GPS, the global positioning system. Called the financial positioning system. You find out, what are your goals and dreams? Write those things down. How much is that going to cost? Write that down. How close are you to fulfilling any of that? Oh, that's the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the gap. Once we figure certain things out, then there's a level of accountability. There's a big push now with the AI financial advising. Robo-advisors, as they call them. And a lot of millennials, they're flocking to those big time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, you got very few people that are disciplined enough where that's going to work for them. Because what's going to happen is when the market starts to its normal ebb and flow, or when it takes a deep dive, you get nervous about your money. You're going to need someone to talk you off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, that's in your corner.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
going to need someone to say, hey, Will, look, man, hey, don't worry about that. Remember our plan. Go back and look at your plan. Remember, I told you this was going to happen. And I also told you, Will, that there's never been a 20-year span where the market ended in a negative, average ending in a negative. Yeah, there are negative years within that, but after that 20-year segment, it's positive. So hey,
Yeah.
we're in this for the long run, So that inconsistency piece and them not knowing why they're so inconsistent, that's what got me on this trail of digging deeper,
Yeah.
because I'm like, man, this doesn't make sense. Because the
Mhm.
way I think, when my trainer came into my house and he told me I had the wrong type of life, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to get the right type? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm on it like that, but I had to retrain my thinking to realize that we come from different backgrounds. We have different experiences that have shaped our thinking. Okay, you can say you love your family, but this is cheap. I need to see some action.
Right.
I
Right.
need you to show me how much you really love them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but that's, I kind of went a little long with that.
No, that was great. That was great. That Jerry showed like how truly passionate, because like you said, it's so much deeper than just, just fixing those habits, right? Like we have to go internally. And that's why I think you're so good at what you do, is because you have that counseling background and
Yeah.
you have the coaching background and the financial background, and like you have all three in one, And so,
Yes.
and I can tell like you are so extremely passionate about
Thank
this
you.
subject.
I
It's
apologize
incredible.
if I've gone a little long on things, and I guess my passion comes from having actually gone through. My first marriage ended because of financial issues.
Mhm.
And so I've lived that. I've lived that shame and embarrassment, the 500 or 600 or something, credit score.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a person that I've met or that I will meet that they can say, man, you don't understand. You
Mhm.
don't understand. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, if I have not gone through that situation, I've had clients and I've had coworkers that have had clients that have, I mean, people have gone through some crazy things, and they've been able to come out on the other side. Because I'm going to say this. I don't want to jump around, but I counseled addicts for about 2 years. Okay. I counseled for about 2 years. I tell people all the time, if you have an addict in your life, drug or alcohol, okay, they are not going to change for anybody but themselves. Now, you may have that rare few. They're not going to change for anybody but themselves. So
Mhm.
you focus on, say, hey, do you want to live? Why do you want to live? Because a lot of them, they're either going to change when there's a threat of going to jail because of domestic violence or some other criminal charge, so they can get their whatever they're supplied, or if they almost die. Those are the two prevalent situations where I've seen addicts turn it around. Okay,
Mhm.
they throw their hands up. Let's do what I need. I'm willing to do whatever you tell me to do. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people. They're in that same situation with their finances. They're not tired. They're not tired of being sick and tired just yet.
Yeah.
Just yet. They figured out how to get around some situation, floating checks, floating credit cards, getting a credit card to pay this, it's
Yep,
going back
I
and forth.
agree.
It hasn't
Yeah.
hit the fan yet. It hasn't hit the fan. So that's,
Yeah.
hopefully, individuals viewing this, listening to it, they'll see that you've got to drop your pride, especially men.
Yeah.
We
We gotta
have
be we gotta be more coachable,
Yes, we've
Yeah.
got to drop our pride and say, okay, I don't know this. Will you help me? I'm not going to, if I'm sitting with a couple and say, hey, I'm not here to be a referee. Okay. I'm not going to break up you guys fighting. So I'm trying to get you guys on the same team with
Mhm.
me. so we can lock arms. Don't look at me as the adversary. I'm not here just to try to sell you something. Well, I am. I'm trying to sell you on a brighter future. But you've got to decide, do you want this marriage to work? Marriage counsel, do you want this marriage to work? Or are you willing to do the things? Number one, yes, I want it to work. So are you willing to do the things to make it work? Yes. Okay. Do you guys want to get your finances together? Do you want to come closer as a couple? Because fights over money is one of the top reasons for divorces.
I agree.
Fights over money. Okay. Yeah. So they have to answer that first. We want to solve this problem because we need to save our marriage. We need to leave a better legacy for our children, because the children, you can tell them all you want. They're watching your actions. They hear you in the bedroom talking or sitting at the kitchen table. You think they're out playing or they're in the room playing, but they hear you discussing how overwhelmed you are financially. They hear the fights. They hear you fighting in the bedroom. They see you sitting out in the car fighting about money, So
yeah. And one thing to add to that, for anybody that is maybe going through that, you are not the only one, right? No. There are so many people out there, business owners that have financial struggles, So I think this is such great knowledge, Jerry. What would you say to kind of wrap this up here? Because we've got a couple minutes left. If there was like maybe a book or a podcast, or maybe if you have a YouTube channel, what kind of like good content material that somebody that is interested, what book would you recommend to somebody to get started and get a better handle on their finances, or a podcast or someone on YouTube?
I like Dave Ramsey has Everyday Millionaire. It's a podcast, the Dave Ramsey Show. Dave Ramsey just put out a new the Total Money Makeover. He just republished that last year, updated. Dave Ramsey fan here. But yeah, if try those. Total Money Makeover, the expanded edition. I think it's 2024.
Yeah, I think I read through that one.
Okay, yeah.
Or Audible book, I think.
Okay.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
So podcast, awesome. I have a YouTube channel set up, but I set it up when I was with my financial services company. And I can have a YouTube channel and I will get it fully set up. I just can't monetize it because it's a conflict of interest, because I'm teaching the same thing that I teach via our company material, So as long as I don't monetize it, I will do that. So I've got a lot of things in the works that slowly but surely try not to overwhelm myself. But yeah, check out Dave Ramsey's Everyday Millionaire. They're short, 6 to 8 minute podcast segments answering questions that have callers call in, and that Dave Ramsey book.
Awesome.
Total Money Makeover.
Yeah, those are really, really good resources. So, Jerry, thank you so much for coming on here.
One thing. Yes. I forgot. I do have a separate website, Esters, coaching.com. That's my website. It gives you an overview. It gives my contact information, a calendar link if you guys want to do a complimentary discovery call. So there's nothing that I'm charging for on the website. It's just there to give an overview of what I do and give individuals an opportunity to reach out to me and have more of an intimate conversation to see if we may be a good fit to work together.
Yeah. So that's really cool. That was actually the last question to kind of wrap it up. For anybody that is interested in your coaching services, financially, business owner, whether they're just getting started or have been in a business owner for a while. I know we have a lot of people that watch as business owners, but so they could basically book a call with you completely free and just go in and see, hey, is there an area here that maybe, you can help them out with their finances, and even just the counseling side, dude, that's amazing. Like you care about helping people, and that is your core. And it resonates like, and I feel that, like, so man, I really, It is. It is. I really, really appreciate you jumping on the call and sharing with us that great knowledge. I personally got a lot of value, even with like the life insurance stuff.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
was such good content
Thanks for
and
the
knowledge.
invite.
So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Is there any other way that they can reach out to you or just through that link? And I can put the link in the description below.
They can email me, Jerry, Jerry, at jesters, ESTERS coaching.com.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and put that in the link in the description. And yeah, man, thanks so much for jumping on with me.
Awesome, Will. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Have a
you're
good one.
very welcome.